Welcome to You Are Medicine. My name is Thuy and Daniel, and I'm your host for part 2 of our podcast on the Chinese Zodiac. In part 1, the main animals we explored were the ox, goat, dog, pig, and rooster, and we delved into their key characteristics and the ways these animals show up in combination with the other animals, the animals of their hour, month, and day. I interviewed animals in my family and came to insights about family dynamics based on the interplay of the different animals. In part 2, we continue to explore the remaining animals of the zodiac, the monkey, rabbit, tiger, dragon, horse, and snake, and engage with friends and patients from the BCA community. We begin with a conversation between BCA patient Ayako and Daniel around Ayako's animals while her niece Amy listens in.
Monkey, snake, goat, ox. Fire monkey year, water snake month, wood goat day, and a fire ox hour. Oh goodness, okay, where to start? So I have a fire monkey. Your fire monkey year, I have a fire monkey hour. And monkeys in general, they just make a joke out of everything. They just want to play. They just want to, everything is just like, serious people, they're always just trying to just mess with them. Just undermine those people.
I think I have that aspect. I don't think it's dominant in me.
Yeah.
I would also say that the way I make people feel comfortable is I joke, I make them laugh.
Yeah.
And for my job, I would make people laugh to forget that they were in a dental chair about to be in a lot of pain.
Yeah, you're good at making people feel at ease.
Right?
Yeah.
So I use the joking part, like even in social situations, I use the joking part to make everybody feel comfortable.
Yeah. The ox is interesting because the ox is all about whatever's worked in the past. Whatever we know is functioning, just stick to that. It's Friday night, it's pizza night. Done pizza night for 15 years. Let's keep doing it. This kind of idea.
Is that true?
Maybe not the pizza night part, but especially like in my job, I like, it's worked this way, let's just keep doing this. I didn't particularly enjoy changing things up just to change things up.
Right. Yeah.
I like stability.
And the goat, the wood goat day, because of that, wood also has this sort of playfulness to it, but the goat is the one who always wants things to be fair and equal and just and righteous.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
So that flavor of like the consistency of the ox. The other thing I didn't say about the ox, which is important here too, is the power of the ox. The ox is not powerful like a tiger, like explosive, momentary power. Its power is in its consistency and its never-ending capacity. It just keeps going, and it doesn't matter what comes at it, it just bowls it over. No matter how big the obstacle, no matter how strong, whatever, it doesn't matter. The ox's consistent nature and forward momentum will just knock it over.
I feel like I have that, yeah.
Yeah. And the monkey has this aspect to it where it can also ride the knife's edge of like danger. It's one of the things the monkeys love to do is they get right up to the edge of a dangerous precipice, but they know exactly where that edge is and they know exactly how far they can lean over. And so to all the other 11 animals, they're like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And the monkey's like, "Ah!" And then right at the last second kind of gets out of the danger and knows exactly how to get out of it.
I might have that aspect too.
But then you have the snake, which is, it sees the world for what it actually is, meaning we're engaged in this big play that the dragon could care less about, but it's off doing its own play. But the snake kind of is sitting in the background watching all of what everybody's doing and sees the meaninglessness of all of it and is like, doesn't care to engage, and people come to them all hysterical, "Oh my God, blah, blah, blah." The snake just doesn't even have a response because it sees through everything.
There is that. I mean, there is that aspect of my personality. I do tend to watch. I do tend to see where things are going. And you're right, oftentimes I don't do anything about it. I just let it all happen and then pick up the pieces afterwards. Because sometimes you can tell someone, but they can't hear it until they go through it themselves. Now I know why I feel so scattered. All these people inside.
I mean, to me, I feel like there is a harmony and a balance in these four animals, but you're saying that it does feel kind of disparate, and so that can happen when you have these different flavors that don't really come together. It creates this sort of sense in people's experience where you're like, you're either one or the other, almost like a dualistic or multiple personalities even, where the flavors don't come together.
It doesn't meld.
Just like a good meal, all the flavors come together and create something new. But when you haven't cooked it properly or whatever, the flavors don't really match. You're like, oh, that's a piece of corn with a whatever.
I mean, another thing I'm wondering is like what happens when you suppress your animal or either yourself or feeling like you can't be your animal.
I mean, it's possible because I feel like all my life I haven't really felt like I fit in. Like who I am naturally doesn't fit in.
Right.
And so I feel like I've learned to adapt to whatever fits in. You know, at school, I behaved a certain way because that allowed me to kind of blend in. You know, every group, every person I encounter, it's more about being able to blend in or, look normal.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, and culturally, in my family, standing out in any way or not being serious, that was punishable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You totally had to suppress your fire monkey.
Yeah, in order to,
Survive.
get along. Yeah. So that does make sense to me. Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm learning something about myself even. That's very interesting.
Yeah, when I was younger, I did have the ability to goad people beyond their capacity.
Yeah.
And you're right. And then I would feel terrible
Right.
and probably get yelled at.
Yeah.
So I think I learned to control it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I never thought of it, but I think you might be right.
Within the system that Daniel learned, our characters are not only influenced by the animals that we are at the time of our birth, but also shaped by our fate. In Ayako's case, part of her fate was to be raised in a traditional Japanese household, and that affected how she dealt with her animal characters. Amy, her niece, also has an interesting contrast of animals to balance and find harmony with. Amy was born in the year of the wood rabbit, and the month, day, and hour of the dragon. That's right, rabbit and dragon, dragon, dragon.
The wood rabbit is the strongest influence, but then the strongest dragon is that earth dragon. But because it's teamed up with the wood and the metal, it's kind of like super dragon.
Dragon, if you look at the dragon animal, it's a combination of all the other animals. Yeah, just think about how it's shaped and everything. Like, yeah.
It has the scales of a snake and the head of a who knows what, and the horns of an ox. And,
Yeah. So it's a combination of all the other animals. And it's the only mythical animal of the 12. So it can do whatever it wants.
So it's this mythical, all-powerful creature disguised in a little baby rabbit. That makes absolute sense. Everybody wants to protect Amy. But she's really this dragon inside.
Is that right?
That's true. Don't you think it's true?
I don't
It's
know.
true.
I'm trying to absorb all of it. I don't know.
Well, it's. I see her as more riding the other dragons, where the rabbit is the one that's most in control. So even though there's all this power and force, the rabbit is like, wait a minute.
Because I go back and forth
Sometimes,
between thinking I can do anything to thinking that I need to small.
well, yeah, and the rabbit has that tendency where the rabbit is protected by its relationships. It kind of looks towards its relations to protect it, and to keep it safe. And the rabbit is extremely intuitive. It doesn't do anything from a rational perspective. It just feels its way through
That's totally me.
life.
That is like, yeah. It is. And I get my feelings hurt a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like I just want to be loving and generous, but I feel like I have to learn to be more protective. It makes me sad. Yeah.
A little baby rabbit
That
heart.
little baby rabbit, yeah.
It's true. It's so interesting. Yeah.
And then when the rabbit gets hurt, then it finds its hole.
It burrows.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Goes back to its kin and underneath the ground. So it's like the rabbit identifies the people that it knows it can trust and also keeps them off to the side and safe away from, this kind of thing. And so
I hoard people.
You hoard people.
so when there is, trouble abound, then they can always back in the hole.
It's like nesting, really. Yeah.
Yeah, the rabbits all nest underground, right? And they pop out when they feel safe. And that's the thing about rabbits. One of the aspects about a rabbit that I've learned very, very personally is like when the rabbit has its people and they feel safe, again, it's not think, it's feel safe, then they are comfortable going out into the world and acting. And especially with 3 dragons, then you can go out in the world and do whatever you want to do. Anything that you can imagine you can go and do. But then you feel hurt, you feel upset about something, then you come back.
We go back.
Come back to the safety, come back to where, And then if the safety really gets destabilized, that's what really... One of the images of the rabbit is it's cute, it's very charming, very personable. Most everybody, they meet a rabbit, they love them. They want to engage with the rabbit, And they're the charmers, and they're the ones that they are very intuitive, so they can kind of see where everybody's soft spots are, and manipulative is one of the words that comes along with the rabbit, because they know they can sense what the other person's looking for and what they need and what they want, and the rabbit will offer that and use that to get what it wants.
I have to say I'm a nurse, and so that skill does come in handy with patience.
Yeah. And when they do feel safe, they're the cool kid. Everybody's all about it. But when the rabbit feels unsafe, when their home is destabilized, they don't have that safe place anymore. Their relationships of safety get destabilized. The images of that rabbit that you're like, oh my God, and you pick it up, you're like, oh, hi. And then the rabbit just starts like kicking its back legs and just kicks the absolute out of you. And you didn't know it, you had no idea that it was coming, but then you're like bleeding and you're like, oh my God, what did I do to this rabbit?
100%.
With the force of 3 dragons. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds so much like you. Yeah.
I like the safety, and I don't like it when there's instability like that, especially with people that I love or feel close to.
Yeah.
I don't, yeah.
It was so interesting to think that Amy has 3 dragons supporting her rabbit. At first glance, a rabbit makes complete sense for Amy. She actually is so cute and charming, just like a rabbit. You just want to cuddle her. But she is a force to be reckoned with, especially when that rabbit feels threatened, and she can sum up her 3 dragons. I just hope I never get on Amy's bad side. Speaking of dragons, it was most difficult for us to find a dragon to interview. As I was going through my patient files looking for a dragon, I couldn't find any dragons. And then I realized that made sense. Dragons are flying out and about, busy doing things more important than coming to an acupuncture appointment. They typically don't come for treatment unless they've really overdone it, and for a dragon, the capacity to overdo it is mythical. So when you have a dragon coming in for an acupuncture treatment, it's often the case that they've learned the hard way how to care for themselves. Feeling how innately powerful they are, dragons are not likely to tend to their needs until they're brought to the brink. And so it was no coincidence that the one dragon that I finally found, Cuidance, did have that experience. The other very powerful and intense animal of the zodiac, the tiger, also has a hard time with taking it easy. Tigers naturally do everything intensely, so even if they're taking it easy, they're probably taking it easy intensely. I was able to organize an interview with both a dragon, Cuidance, and a tiger, Sophie, together. And I wondered what these powerful animals might have a hard time with in life.
It's having to depend on others.
That's such a dragon answer. Wow. So when do you have a situation like that? Oh, if you're depending on somebody to finish something so that you can do something or something like that.
Yes. Yes. Or teach somebody something, and I know that I have to be patient. I know they're learning, but I'm just like, I could just get this done so much faster and I don't have to worry about all this other stuff. But then they don't learn. Like a good example for me with that has been like, I'm trying to balance out the chores at home as my kids get a little older and, trying to have them help with laundry and cooking and those household kind of chores. And I realized I can't do it all myself for such a large family all the time. But then I find myself I don't know, I need to work on my patience or something. I just get really like, I have to restrain myself from taking over.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the best fire dragon answer. Yeah. So that's really hard for you.
Yeah.
Well, now you know why.
Yeah.
Do you have an answer, Sophie?
Well, I thought the dishes, washing the dishes, I don't know what my block is around that. Like getting a dishwasher was like a life-changing experience for me. Because I guess it's like I feel like there's other ways I want to use my time rather than be standing in front of the sink or standing over the sink. I hate this, like the soap, and just the experience is like, for whatever reason, very unpleasant for me. There's other kinds of cleaning that I really enjoy, or like sweeping or vacuuming, that's like this instant gratification and then it's done. But like the dishes, it's like I love to cook and I love to eat, but then the cleanup is just I do not want to involve myself with that. Another thing that's really difficult for me but always feels good after the fact is confrontation, and like really, like it's easy for me to pinpoint what a problem is, and it's easy for me to tell the other person, but then to create a resolution is really challenging. And maybe it's like about compromising or recognizing that I could have to change. Like I can say what's wrong, but then if it has it to do with me changing anything about myself, then I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut, I think.
I mean, are you relating to that too, or no? It sounded like you were.
A little bit, in kind of like a slightly different way. I think I have learned over time. For me, it's more giving people their space. Some people like large amounts of quiet, alone kind of time and can't have a snowball of things kind of thrown at them, a litany of stuff to rambled off all at once. And so, adjusting and accommodating and responding to others in my pack.
I mean, I think that because both of your animals are so powerful that it doesn't surprise me that having to change or accommodate or adjust is just difficult.
Totally, yeah. I mean, for a dragon, for sure, it's like, no, the world needs to change in order for this to function, right? Yeah. And then the tiger is like, it really is the king of the jungle,
Right.
But the tiger thinks then it's the king of everything. And so when it's outside of the jungle, then it's out of its element, and then the world is kind of like dictating that it changes its behavior. But the tiger's like, no.
Right.
So you don't like confrontation just because the result might be that you have to do something different.
Yeah, or that the fear around also like disappointing the other person.
That I noticed
That
that's
like
a
I
big
don't live
tiger
up to
thing.
their expectation or something, or that or like doing something, quote unquote like wrong.
Yeah. That's often a point of retreat too, right? If
yeah.
you feel that way.
Yeah,
See, I've noticed that about tigers too. Very sensitive.
Very sensitive.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Like the idea is the cat with the thorn in the paw, right? And then it's like one of the interesting things, like the tiger is very strong, very resilient, but yeah, just a tiny little thing will bring it down.
Yeah.
The scratch from the boar. The boar is one of the only animals that's really a threat to the tiger in the wild, because every other animal flees except for the boar, the pig, a mother boar will protect its young. Even if it knows it's going to die, it will attack, and all it needs to do is get one scratch with its tusk on the tiger. A little scratch, it'll get infected and eventually kill the tiger.
Because the tiger has a really weak immune system. Yeah, that's why a little thorn will mess it up. So it's like this big ferocious, but then it's like totally sensitive.
Tiny little thing will take it down.
Yeah, I completely resonate with that on emotional and like physical and mental level.
Yeah.
I feel like so much of recently I've just been want to focus on strengthening myself and strengthening my willpower, strengthening my emotional state, so I'm not so much of just like a leaf blowing in the wind and kind of susceptible to other people.
I mean, I think the hard thing with the tiger, the flip is like when you feel strong, you feel really strong and out there. And when you don't, you really don't.
Yeah.
So it's more maybe just reminding yourself that you just need the rest to like swing back, right?
Yeah,
Or the
you need
retreat.
that balance. But it's also like, I mean, the thing with the tiger, if it's a big problem, a big thing, and it's intense, the energy is very strong, then the tiger will jump on it and dominate it easily.
Yeah, easily.
But when it's a small thing, then it's very difficult. It's very hard to navigate.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you need to maybe even thinking about it that way. So like you do have other things that you can rely on, right? Like the monkey and the pig can kind of delve into those smaller things that aren't so intense or big. But, but then you're saying it's like the monotonous chores that are just the same thing over and over and over again. It's like there's really no quality of your character that really wants to engage with that. It has to be bombastic or nourishing.
Really?
Not mundane
exactly.
Right. So it's like maybe trying to figure out how to put those mundane things into one of those categories. It's either nourishing you somehow or it's really intense in some way that engages you.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you get out of the boring minutia of these qualities?
Right.
Then you can engage with them.
Yeah.
Make it a game. The monkey wants to make games out of everything. So if you make it a game,
Yeah, you have that monkey
can play
energy.
with it.
Right.
So you can maybe add something to listen to music or, something like this.
something.
Big bombastic music. Break some plates while you're doing the dishes.
It was interesting and funny to think that the biggest challenges for the tiger and dragon are in dealing with the small, mundane things of life. This made Quidance rethink confrontation as she realized she has a much harder time with it than she felt at first glance.
I do not like confrontation at all. I would much rather just disregard the whole thing and just totally avoid.
It's hilarious to me because the stereotype of a person who's afraid of confrontation is a timid person, but it's like hearing the big animals not want to go into confrontation is so weird to me, because people are afraid of confrontation. They're afraid of confronting a dragon or a tiger and not being strong enough.
Right. Yeah.
But you hate it because
I don't know. I just don't like it. I just don't like I can start to feel like the rise in kind of like my blood pressure, and just something about it just seems exhausting and draining, and just kind of like, why can't you just follow the program or come to some sort of a resolution or I don't know, do what you gotta do, like, you know, but like,
Right.
yeah, definitely don't like physical confrontation or violence or, you know, like my tolerance for things like that are just kind of like, we don't need to take it there. But part of it too, I feel like once I do get activated, there's no turning back. Then once I'm activated and I'm angry or I feel like I need to go into like protective mode, it's like all or nothing.
Well, you know, I think as you're talking, I'm wondering if the reason why you don't like confrontation is we're conditioned to be when we have to be diplomatic and we have to like be very respectful and everything, and you know your energy is so big, you already know everything, so feeling like you have to like do this thing to be nice and to be diplomatic and all that just feels exhausting because it's a suppression of your big energy.
That's the
know?
suppression part is resonating.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yes,
And I think especially in this day and age, like if we were in a time where you could duke it out, go into the tiger arena, maybe you wouldn't feel that way. Maybe you could harness your energy and do it, but we're of a time and age where we have to be very diplomatic. We have to watch our words and watch our actions.
Yes.
And that's exhausting for somebody with such big energy who can just be like, look,
I think it feels
this
like
is what's going on. This is what you need to do.
Well, and that's why I feel like in coming here to acupuncture and learning and hearing a word like stagnation, right? I think that's what happens with me then. Then it becomes stagnant, just energy in me, and I need a release. I need a way to like get that out because I feel like I've suppressed so much.
Yep.
There's only so much deep breathing you can do, you know? It's like...
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the most fascinating thing about this whole program to me is I've talked to different animals about suppressing their nature because of the culture or time or even body you're born in. Like, women are taught much more to suppress their dragon and tiger nature than men. So if it's your nature, but everything is telling you that's not appropriate,
Yes.
Yeah.
that's when the problems start.
Yeah.
And that can become illness too. I think it's helpful when people feel like, oh, it's not because there's something wrong with me that I can't just do what I'm expected to do, but oh, it's part of my nature. You know, because every animal is wonderful and has a good expression of what they are if they're allowed to. And if they feel like there's something wrong with their nature, then you get that stagnation feeling. You get that. And I mean, we've had animals like suppress themselves or dissociate with their animals for so long, it's almost like you can't even feel your animal nature anymore.
Wow.
And that's really sad. Like a monkey who's serious. That's really sad. You know? Or a pig who's like on a diet. That's really sad. You know, there's a good expression of you. Like, just for animals, you don't approach an animal like you should be a cat when you're a pig. You just accept them, right? And you enjoy them. People are like that too. We have our thing. And so at least you can do it for yourself when you know, especially if your nature is very resonant to you. Like, this makes sense for you both?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
There's another powerful animal of the zodiac, the horse that tends to go, go, go. A close family friend, I interviewed Kay during a gathering about her animals.
The earth horse is just one of the flavors of influence that makes your character, but it's the strongest influence, generally speaking. And the hour is the next strongest influence, which for you is a dragon. Your dragon is the methodology of which your horse is expressed in the world. So the horse, lots of projects, trying to get lots of things done all at the same time, all over the place.
If you saw my house right now. Yeah, big time.
But the dragon can get all those things done. So that's the interesting thing. It's like,
Right.
it's really just a matter of focus and time.
That's it. That's all I need. Focus and time.
Yeah, and it'll all get done.
So interesting.
Not every character can say that, you know?
It's like you've already pinpointed me.
And then you also have Metal Rooster, Water Snake. Metal Rooster is very much in the head, very much intellectual knowledge, data, what it can quantify, always looking at picking up new things, focusing, learning.
Wow.
And very precise in its application of what it knows and etc. The snake is the mystic. The snake is the one that's seeing through everything and seeing through in the deepest sense of seeing through. The snake sees everything for what it is. So this world presents in a certain way and offers certain, capacities, but the world itself, because of the way that it's conceived, is limited, right? But the snake sees through all of that and can kind of see all the potentiality and sees the real meaning and value that exists beyond conception.
Yeah, I felt like that's always my spiritual side. That's what I've called it.
It's your snake.
It's my snake.
Your snake has that capacity. You're here, you're engaging, and you can engage. The dragon certainly gives you that capacity to engage. And the rooster. The rooster's all about whatever this world presents and picking up all the data and all the pieces. And the dragon bolsters that and allows you to kind of easily interact in this world. But the snake is always in the background, kind of seeing how none of that really matters, but what does matter is over here, kind of unseen and unknowable and unattainable.
Like 100%.
All of those together?
Yes. Oh my goodness. How is that even possible? That's so fascinating. I see all that in everything.
Huh.
Yeah. Even the part about how I see the world, that's huge to me, because I feel like something can be presented and I'm always, let me really see though. It's just like, no, that's not what I'm picking up. Let me keep seeing, because it's going to come, what I'm really seeing is going to come out, because this isn't it. So that's really intriguing to me. And even just the data thing, I'm all like even the fine tuning. I mean, everything you were saying, I'm feeling like it's very relatable. It's all very on point with my personality, with who I am, with how I live.
Through all the interviews, I've experienced in some form or another what just happened with the K, Daniel explaining the animal's characters and the person just lighting up with resonance and the feeling of being seen. Sometimes when the animals have been repressed, it takes longer for the person to realize that beneath the facade of the characteristics that they feel coerced to present actually lay the animal character that they are. Or it takes someone outside of them to affirm what is being said before they themselves come to recognize it. But in Kay's case, because she is in touch with who she is, the recognition came quickly and completely. We went on to talk further and discussed how each animal's behavior changes according to how life changes, the interaction of the animals with their fate. In Kay's case, she is coming into a time of her life where she feels her snake energy is strong, and so she really identifies with the mystical spiritual aspect of how she approaches life. When people have strong animals in their lives like tigers, dragons, horses, the presentation of that bigness necessarily changes as one gets older, but the energy behind that presentation doesn't change. So for Christy, while her horse was actively doing physical work and projects in the world at a younger age, as she gets older, that energy calms down and turns more inward into more spiritual endeavors, things that the snake is naturally connected to. I have a very close friend, another snake in my life, Rosie. We spend almost all of our time together talking about spiritual stuff in one way or another, We're able to talk about anything you can think about and turn it into a spiritual conversation. We seem to have endless energy to do that. Rosie was born in the year of the fire snake, and it's of no surprise to me. What is surprising to me is that snakes are often characterized as being very private, almost secretive people, and Rosie doesn't strike me as being that way. She feels very open to me, and I wondered how her mix of animals, a snake, 2 pigs, and a monkey, makes her who she is. Of course, all animals, and snakes included, have people where they're more transparent with, right? But in general, they tend to be private.
Well, yeah, then when you say it like that, then that feels... The things that I share with you, I don't share broadly, you know? So maybe like out in the world, maybe there is more of a privacy than I'm acknowledging or aware of.
Yeah.
For sure, there's like a discernment of who I'm sharing with. Not many people that I share so much with.
And I think we're thinking about it maybe a bit too materialistic, like, oh, well, if they're a private person, they're more snake-like. I don't think it's necessarily like that per se. It's more of this mysterious quality. Like, there is something going on underneath that's literally unknowable in some fundamental way. So
I feel like Rosie has that. Yeah. Mystery. Like if you were to be like, oh, is mysterious a characteristic of Rosie? I'd be like, I can see that. It's harder for me to see because I know you, but I can imagine to a world, it's like there's mystery there. And that is a character of privacy. Some mysterious, something going on underneath that people can't quite put their finger on.
And even for yourself, I wonder too, because it does feel like, especially in the time of your life that you're in now, where there's a delving into the depths of a thing and really cultivating something very deep and that's been there for, you know, maybe your whole life. But it's like there's a ripening of a thing that's very, mystical even. Something like that, right? Mm-hmm. The mystic is the quality of the snake. There is this aspect of seeing through things, seeing through the nature of things. I mean, we've talked about this already quite a bit in other interviews that we've done for this podcast, but the capacity for the snake to really see through to the reality of what's actually going on, beyond the world as it presents, beyond how we have come to characterize what's going on and the systems and the ideology that we've built around it. The snake can see through all of that. The other 11 animals don't really have that capacity so much, if at all, actually. The snake is the one that can see through it. The rabbit kind of feels its way through it a little bit, but the snake actually sees through what's going on. So, and because of that, then the snake moves or doesn't move from that place, or has the capacity to. So that's kind of interesting then to think about in juxtaposition with the pig, because the pig is all about what this world presents and all the sensory, everything that it's...
The donuts.
Yeah, the donuts, the chocolate, the sex, all the candy that is presented is like num num nums.
So you have the snake and 2 pigs.
So it's interesting then, there does seem like maybe there's a synthesis happening there where it's like, because the monkey is kind of playing with everything, right? The monkey doesn't take anything seriously, and in fact is always trying to break down the seriousness of everything and just have fun with it and play with it. And so to me there's an element of the snake, because they can see through everything, then there's this quality of disengagement with the world, right? Like the polar opposite of the pig. The pig is all about engagement. Jumping in the pig pile, rolling in the mud, you know, engaging with all the things that are available to engage with as much as possible, right? That's the extreme flavor of the pig. The snake then sees through everything that's presented and understands that it really doesn't have any weight or value or meaning much at all, if any. Its chi goes to what's actually going on underneath. And so it's kind of like you can do both, maybe. Mm-hmm. Like you can play in the world, but you know that it doesn't really mean anything, but it's still fun to do, and your pigs are happy and the monkey's happy. But then the snake is really delving down into the depths of a thing. and not just a thing, but the depths of what this is, you know, what is our experience, what is the human life, and kind of disregards all the candy.
I mean, you're kind of just describing Rosie's life right now, right? The dancing and the cooking and the food and the friends, and then the course every morning. The learning the Chinese solo.
Yeah, totally. I have a lot of capacity to be alone and by myself, you know? Like when I'm in that world, I'm like, I could go days without talking to another person, you know? But then I also feel like I have a need or desire to be with friends and people too.
Yeah,
so
totally.
I feel both of those things for sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting to like talk about it so specifically, or I don't know. You know,
I
to,
mean, it
to put
makes
it through
sense
that lens.
now. I mean,
Yeah.
I was a little confused, but now that we're going into it, it does make a lot of sense.
Is this how it was with other people too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a journey visiting all these animals for this show. Have you been counting all the animals that we highlighted? We've actually covered them all, except one. Can you guess what animal that we haven't heard from? Squeak! You've actually been listening to that one talk the whole time. Yep, that's me, the rat. And true to my nature, I am very ratty. Take, for example, how this show was made. Me scurrying around, gathering bits and pieces from this person and that, piling it all up together into a beautiful tapestry. Very resourceful, works on projects bit by bit, clever, likes to collect things, and charming are a few of the wonderful traits of a rat. To my rat brethren, I see you running businesses and managing your households and multitasking to the max. Keep doing you, but watch out for hoarding tendencies and burnout. People ask me what my other animals are, and the answer is, I don't know. When I was born, it wasn't important to take note of precise dates and time, but everyone knew the year they were born, so I know I'm a rat. I've wondered about the details of the time of my birth, but not knowing can also be liberating. While knowing can open us to a way of understanding ourselves, sometimes that same understanding can be limiting when we identify ourselves or others too rigidly within any paradigm. I know I don't have to say this, but we are vastly more than 4 animals. We're so much more that it's hard to talk about, hard to conceptualize, hard to understand, and maybe that's why these systems are helpful. They can bring insight into places that we may have hardened around or judged poorly, and with deep acceptance and understanding, give us the ability to love ourselves and be ourselves, and therefore accept and love others for who they are as well. Any system that can do that is valuable. Thank you for listening to You Are Medicine. If you want to know what your 4 animals are, and you have access to an iOS device such as an iPhone, check the podcast show notes for a link to the DYC Tongshu app. A big, big thank you to my family and guests, Matt, Max, Adrian, Zeb, Tallulah, Kipling, Amy, Ayako, Quidance, Sophie, Christy, Rosie, and my piggy pie, pig, Daniel. I hope this podcast helps you understand yourself and others in a more loving way. See you next time on You Are Medicine.